Hello, and thank you for tuning in to this week's Blockchain Game with Abyss weekly roundup. Today is Friday, the 22nd of March, and we are just post GDC. I'm your host, Jenny Jordan, and with me is co-host John Jordan. And before we start, I just want to mention our website, Blockchain Game with Abyss, where you'll find all of the relevant news in blockchain gaming that you need to keep up with the industry, and follow us on Twitter at BCGBiz. Hello, John. How's your week going?
Yes. Yeah, busy week, as you say. Lots of GDC stuff, but I guess not really anything significant. I was maybe hoping for a few sort of projects to sort of announce significant things, but it seems like obviously we weren't at GDC in San Francisco this year. Looking at people on Twitter, they all had a great time, sort of moping around, meeting each other and eating cool food and generally having a whale of a time. Meeting
parties, up, lots of parties.
But no sort of substantial news, I would say. But obviously we're going to discuss news anyway. But I was hoping for bigger news. Maybe put it that way.
No, so like you say, plenty of kind of mid-range headlines. Yeah. So let's go through those, and then we'll dive deeper into a few of the subjects as is our practice. So Ronin hit an all-time high this week. That wasn't not a news that was sort of related to GDC or anything that came out of that, but that's they hit 1.2 million daily active wallets, which is then obviously higher than any time before, which is mainly sort of a comparison to the kind of highlight days of Axie Infinity in 2021, when they had 1.1 million.
That's per day. Yeah. There was an absolute sort of classic crypto spike where it sort of hit that 1.1 million. I can't remember what it was the day before or the day after, but it dropped off very, very quickly. It wasn't anything like a plateau. It was like a single day peak and straight down the other side.
Yeah,
which is obviously not happening now. It's much more sustained.
No, exactly. Yeah. Guild of Guardians has announced their global launch date to 15th of May, and in conjunction with that, Immutable has announced that. Anyway, we'll go into that a little bit more in detail later. Just to run through the headlines first. Yeah. Immutable and the zkEVM will be integrated with the OKX exchange. So sort of their passport and marketplace and the lot will be integrated with OKX's NFT marketplace and wallet service. Immutable again, and Polygon and King River has launched this what they would like to be 100 million inevitable games fund. Shrapnel launched their marketplace with new gun skins. Gotchi Chain announced that they are moving from Polygon to Base, so that's sort of the whole other Gotchi sort of gaming platform, including all of its games. And another project moving from Polygon is Infinite Gods, which the primary sort of game is King of Destiny, a mobile kind of casual game, moving to Arbitrum, and then they're also taking with them the Infinite Merge and what's the other one called? Tower Defense one. Anyway, so basically all their current games and future games are going to Arbitrum. Directive Games has announced a 5 million funding round. Which is likely a token pre-sale, which we can also sort of talk a little bit more about. It's not always easy to define these days because there are a lot of those token pre-sales, but they are just being announced as sort of a funding rounds. So we didn't mention it last week. It actually happened on Friday. We are pretty sure anyways. The Carbonated Game Studio announced a 13 million funding round for their Mad World game. Yes, Sandbox has been in the news as well. They have announced they are so I read this kind of in February, a blog post of the co-founders of the Sandbox having gone on a sort of Antarctica on some sort of exploration, educational trip. And then they've come back and written this long blog post about their sort of vision of where they want Sandbox to move towards in terms of their sort of ecological footprint. And now the first sort of initiative has come out of that, which is they're collaborating with two charities to for sort of forest conservation and deforestation. So within that kind of initiative, players will get a chance to buy NFT seeds and plant trees in the sandbox, which will then have the names on of the kind of NFT holders. And the kind of idea is that they also represent like a real tree that's being planted by this charity WeForest. Anyway, let's get back to sort of the kind of head news that we had, which is Ronin. First of all, why is this different then to the previous kind of all-time high in 2021?
Yep.
Like you said, that was kind of a peak and then it dropped off. Why is it not like that this time?
It's not like that this time because the Axie Infinity was very much based around you basically logged into the game, played a bit, and got free tokens, and that just drove an enormous amount of people and bots to play the game, and the amount of tokens. So the token supply just got massively out of control, and there was no utility on the tokens. So basically, you had massive inflation of the tokens. You had massive inflation of Axie NFTs, which is what people were sort of selling as well. And so at some point, no sort of it is absolutely no counterbalance to the giving away stuff for free. Then obviously it just sort of tips over. And we see that, that's a typical crypto, you see that particularly on sort of meme coins. As a meme coin price goes up, more people go, oh, meme coin price is going up. More people buy meme coin price goes up. More people go, oh, meme coin. and then it basically, it sucks all the money that's available to meme coins into that opportunity. Then people start selling and everyone goes, meme coin going down, I sell. And then it goes down and up. So you sort of had that situation. Now, about half of the Ronin activity at the moment is from the Pixels game. So as we discussed many times, that launched in November, and that's slowly built up, obviously from zero, or about 10,000 players ahead on Polygon. And obviously there'll be some bots in there as well at the moment, but they're like on 500,600. So the peak for Ronin happened, just there was for whatever reasons, a slight peak on Pixels as well, where they hit 600,000 daily active unique wallets. So half of it is that. And then just generally, as Ronin builds out and has more games coming live, it still has very few games, really, if you think about it. It has a few Axie ones, but Axie Infinity Origins now does about 15,000, so that's way off, obviously, what it was. There's a few other sort of Axie ones, Axie Homeland I play, but that's very light on the blockchain. And then you have this second big thing that's driven this particular cycle is Aperon, which did the first token launch on Ronin and is also launching its token next week. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with about 50,000 people logging in every day just to sort of farm this token or do tasks to get on an allocation, blah, blah, blah. So they're basically, so this peak in Ronin is sort of manipulated in the sense that they're doing a token launch and half of the audience is people just piling in to get free tokens. And obviously as that goes away, then you lose that audience. But because they have more of these games coming out now, I think you're just going to get, assuming some of those games find some sort of audience and they're not all sort of fail. You're just going to, increasingly, you're going to get sort of, a general growth in the number of the activity on Ronin, and then these sort of occasional peaks when some particular thing is happening. So that's the way sort of I see it. Also, it was not uncoincidentally the Ronin RON token also peaked the day before the activity on-chain peaked, so that hit $4.50 or something. It was dropped off since, but presuming the crypto bull market still continues for a bit, the RON price will probably, not investment price, probably keep going up. So the momentum is for that blockchain just to have more activity. So is it going to be 1.2 million? Isn't that much really? I mean, they get, I guess, 5 million, 10 million, sort of, where people want to be if they're taking blockchain mass market, as these people like to say.
I guess the challenge really is to sort of retain those as players and get them into the game, not just to build up the hype around the token event, like you said, which Pixel has managed to do very well, and we'll sort of have to wait and see if Aperon manages to do the same.
And as we sort of discussed, the key thing for for anything, it's not just blockchain, but for any sort of marketplace or any platform is once you get people in there, then it's relatively easy to launch, half decent, doesn't even have to be great content. And they got loads of people on there. They got loads of people with ROM wallets. They got loads of people with tokens, maybe $10, maybe people with $1 million of worth of, and once people have got value in a blockchain, then they just sort of spend it in there. And obviously they've got the Cyber Kong stuff going on, and they launched the Cyber Kongs banana token on there. It's not got no utility at the moment, but they're sort of launching these things. And the Machines Arena just launched their NFT skins. I mean, no one's trading those really, but that game's coming. You just have it just layers on. You get layer on layer on layer, and they just compound. And then everyone's like, "Oh, Ron looks really interesting." And then you flywheel people creating more wallets, and that's the way it goes. So, I guess with all these things, how far it continues, that's really what we don't know. But certainly in the short term, if crypto sort of continues its momentum, Ron is sort of the place to be. And as everyone does, at GDC, their head of BD is just like, yeah, we met 100 game developers. Some of them flew in just to meet us because they want to launch on Ronin and blah, 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 blah. So that was one of the things I expected them to announce some stuff, but they haven't. So we await that. And then it's sort of catch up for all these other people, as we'll probably discuss, Immutable and Avalanche had a big event at the show, and a big booth at the show, and Arbitrum had this sort of a thing as well. And obviously, you've got all these L2, L3s, High Chain, what's it called, Zaya, Gotcha Chain, as you mentioned. They're all all these people sort of rolling out similar sort of ecosystems. Treasure DAO, so there's quite a lot of competition in that space.
So we're moving on to Immutable, and we are talking a little bit about the Guild of Guardians, John, that you've been looking at quite in depth. You've been following it sort of since its inception as you tell us about their journey. Generally, we have these ideas of what our most anticipated sort of games are. There's 10 to 50 or something, whatever. But this is just in terms of the game. This is one I played. Three versions of this in the playtest over the years. So thank you to Immutable for that. It's a type of game I absolutely love. So it's what we sort of call a turn-based squad RPG. So basically, for mobile, you don't really. What you do is you collect a whole bunch of characters and you set out a squad. In this case, 4 characters, and you don't have any control over what they do. So you basically choose the squad, and then they go into a dungeon, and they fight the monsters in the dungeon, and if they win, they go on to the next dungeon. You keep going until hopefully you get to the boss, and then you kill the boss and you get a massive reward, and then you come out of that loop, and then you spend your time leveling up your characters or collecting new ones or getting, whatever. That's the typical loop we get for these sort of mobile games. And there's really famous ones I played a lot was Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. That was a really big one in the West. And another one called Raid, Shadow Legends, another, these are billion-dollar sort of games. So that's a very well-known genre in mobile. A little bit, old-fashioned now. So that'll be one of my, not concerns. That'd be interesting to see if Guild of Guardians is sort of a bit too formulaic in terms of the gameplay for Web 2 players, because there's just a whole ton of these type of games. But I love them because if you can play, and then you sort of spend your time thinking about the resources you get, and then you go in and try another dungeon. So it's quite a nice sort of loop. I'd say I played the recent playtest, I can't remember, a couple of months ago, and I thought it was pretty good, actually. They've had it in soft launch in a few countries, and they say they've got very good KPIs, key performance indicators, good review scores on the App Store, all that sort of stuff. So they're happy, I guess, as a Web 2 game, the basic framework is going to appeal to people. And just as an aside, we see blockchain games fail on that. So I'd say Heroes of Mavia is a game that has failed on that. Copying Clash of Clans and just like some very basic loops were not good enough. And they've just actually updated the game. So lots of people got stuck. When you upgrade your HQ, you sort of need a lot of resources to do that. Excuse me. And the third one, I think, is you go from level 3 to level 4, you need 70,000. And that took me about an hour of playing to get that. Then the next one was 70,000 to 700,000, and that was basically for a lot of people impossible or very, very hard to do. So a lot of people dropped off at that stage. They've just changed it now, so it's 400,000. So that's now doable for me. So I'm going to have to play that game and level up my base. But I just kind of think they were, you can have some very naive, you can make some very naive game decisions that just mean, basically, I think for Heroes of Mavia, it will have lost 95% of its audience when they hit that leveling up HQ, because it's just too big, and people just like, there's loads of games, you can't, people aren't really committed to these things. So, anyway, so that'll be interesting to see on the Guild of Guardians side if it's got all those loops really well done. Then of course the other thing is, how well does the Web3 stuff work? It's going through app stores. There's obviously restrictions about what you can do. We've seen sort of successful games like NFL Rivals that sort of they work out how to do this. They have their own currency. You can buy NFTs in there, but it's a bit clunky.
how will Immutable sort of handle this sort of stuff? We don't really know. There's loads of NFTs out there for Guild of Guardians because it's a game that's been in development since 2021. They've did a whole re sort of design of it in 2022, so it changed a little bit. But they've got a lot of NFTs out there. They've got a token, an ERC20 token out there. I mean, how is that going to be integrated into the game? Not sure. So there's a sort of lot of questions to be answered in that sort of integration. But I'm just really happy. Coming out 15th of May, I've signed up. If you pre-register, you get some free stuff when it comes out. So I'm sort of on an optimistic sense for the game, all sort of for it. I guess my slight reticence on it is it's a big deal for Immutable. So as we sort of said, Ronin's sort of powering ahead. Immutable, is the biggest sort of blockchain gaming platform, at least in terms of the market cap of its token. The IMX token's about $4 billion of market cap compared to Ronin under $1 billion. So, it's sort of very much, the top 30, I think, cryptos. So, they're definitely sort of seen as one of the leaders in the space, but up to this point they haven't got any high profile games or even any, you can say, popular games, because they're big. Guild of Guardians is one of only 2 games they've developed in house, and it got delayed. So there's quite a lot riding on it. I think I wouldn't want to overplay it. So it's not like Guild of Guardians or bust for Immutable, because they have some other good games. So Metalcore and Shardbound and Heroes on Chain, and yes, they keep quoting 270, whatever. How many games doesn't really matter. But they have these other games. But Guild of Guardians is their own game, and they have spent a lot of time on it and a lot of money on it. And so there is I think there are a lot of eyes on it beyond how good it is as a game. And I hope it will be a good game, and I'll play it a lot, I expect.
And you got some NFTs, you say, John. So are you going to do this?
Yeah.
Immutable announced on the 25th of March, it'll be possible to sort of burn your old NFTs in return for sort of rewards that you can then use in this sort of
I think
revamped game that launches on the 15th of
I'll definitely look into that. I mean, as I say, they produced, because it was back in 2021 when everything was booming, they just released too many NFTs, and it was very complicated, all the rarity stuff. It's a bit of a mess. No one really values them anymore. I don't have very many. I have a few, like half a dozen or something. So, yeah, as you say, there's going to be a burn process. We don't quite know how it's going to work, but basically it looks like there's going to be some recipes. So, like, take 1 of these and 2 of these and 3 of those and burn them. So it's basically that they get destroyed in blockchain terms, and then we'll reissue you with a new shiny, better. The art's not very good on them. All that sort of stuff.
Make a soup and we'll have some magic spell come up for you. That's
yeah. And they sort of themed it like there's like an altar and you're giving a sacrificial prayer, and I don't know exactly, but then you get a summon thing, so you summon new characters, and the game is about collecting characters, so that does very much play into the game theme, and it does show in a sense how blockchain is flexible, so you can issue these tokens and then you can get rid of them. And obviously the issue is most of the 200,000 characters in the game will not go through this burn process. I'll be amazed if 5% go through. So you sort of have this big catalogue of tokens of NFTs that are now never going to be used in the game, and they, which is not great, but sort of it is what it is. And I guess some people will sort of start buying them up to create these new ones, and but basically it looks like there'll be a new set of characters, and that'll be what they're focusing on going forward. So it's it's a nice thing for the blockchain sort of people like me. But I don't think it's not significant in the sense of whether that game is a success or not.
Right, more significant perhaps is the partnership with the OKX exchange. And can you tell us a little bit more about that, what it entails, and why it matters to the game developers building on Immutable?
So this is, I think, actually quite a big deal. So OKX is one of the big sort of centralized crypto exchanges, been around for a while. One of the ones that sort of survived, one of the sort of Chinese-focused original ones, like Binance and Huobi, and I mean, I'm not. I don't use those ones really, but it's one of the ones that sort of survived the crypto years and has sort of come out of it quite well. And particularly, actually, recently, it has its own NFT marketplace that has done really well. So it's not like OpenSea or Magic Eden, but you start to see most of these exchanges, haven't done NFTs well. I mean, they all crack and do it. Coinbase, they have NFT platforms, but they've never really taken off in the way that like an OpenSea or a Magic Eden have. But OKX one have actually done okay. It's probably in the top 5, certainly in the top 10 platforms. So people are trading there. I mean, I imagine their audience is mainly Asian. Although they do often see, I can't remember who they sponsor. They sponsor a Premier League team. You often see their advert. Is it Man United even? I can't remember. Oh, maybe Man City. I think it's Man City. I think so they do have reach. And the other cool thing they're doing, so they're integrating the Immutable zkEVM chain, which is their new Polygon-based blockchain, and they're going to bring a lot of functionality in terms of token stuff. So at the moment, the EVM thing has obviously marketplaces for NFTs, and there's a few different NFT marketplaces supporting that. But they don't have anything yet like a launchpad. So obviously launchpads are very successful for launching tokens. Binance launchpad, massive. Ronin did its first launchpad, massive. So Immutable needs a launchpad in order so people can stake IMX tokens and get new tokens issued to them for new games. Everyone loves that. That's like free money. So that's going to be a key thing, I think, for OKX. They're going to be launching tokens for Immutable, and they're going to do NFT stuff where they're already quite strong. And it just brings... it's a little bit odd in the sense that they're a centralized platform and Immutable is very decentralized and Ethereum focused. So there's potentially a little bit of a philosophical divide. When Ronin did it using a decentralized launchpad integration, so called Impossible Finance. So they're much more in the decentralization sort of field, whereas this one feels a little bit clunky, but it will definitely bring them volume. So we'll see where it goes. But it's definitely some infrastructure that games on Immutable are going to need. Certainly, they've got 270 games. Some of them won't have launched tokens yet, so they want to launch tokens. So if they can do that within a platform, that's much better for them.
Good. They got a partnership with Manchester City, just for the record.
Yes.
And in other Immutable news, they announced a partnership with Polygon and King River for this Inevitable Games Fund, which I would imagine that name, Inevitable, comes from the sort of the meme that goes around on Twitter. Inevitable, Web3.
Web3 gaming is inevitable.
Gaming is inevitable, yeah. So in that sense, you've been saying for a while, there's a little bit sort of memey. Everyone's sort of spinning on this meme thing, the hype around that at the moment. Tell us more about this fund, John. Is it a meme?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is actually less of a news story, really. So they're launching this fund. I mean, the problem for blockchain gaming isn't really funding. I mean, funding is pretty poor at the moment, but the problem is not funding. The problem is other things. So. It's a little bit odd in the sense that Immutable launched, I think a $500 million token fund, like back in 2022 or something. No one really knows what's happened to that. So it's very easy to launch. So why they've announced this is they want rich people and rich companies to invest in their games fund. So they've said they want it to be a $100 million fund. What they've not said is it is a $100 million fund. I imagine the way funds work, they've got a few people that they said are funding it. They've probably got like 10 million, maybe 20 million. Probably 10 million. And they basically want rich people and rich companies to go, yeah, we'll put money in your fund. So they're announcing, they stick a big number on it. If they get to 60 million, they won't tell anyone and they'll probably be quite happy. If you're raising a new fund and you get to $60 million, that's pretty good. And then they'll just, often with sort of funds, the interesting thing is, are you launching a fund that's going to do something different? So some people launch funds and say we're going to back women-only companies or minority companies or whatever. There's a sort of spin you can put on a fund, which can be we could talk whether it's good to fund minorities or women or whatever. That's another sort of question. But this just seems like another. If they're successful and raise $100 million to invest in games, then great. There's another 100. But the people who were going to invest in this fund, probably if they didn't invest in that fund, would just invest in another fund investing in blockchain games. So I don't really see that it's adding much to blockchain games. Obviously, great for Immutable and King River if they raise that money because they get 2% of that for their running costs. So bully for them, but I don't think it moves the needle very much.
Right, let's crack on. Shrapnel launched their NFT marketplace and. They are also just undergoing their second playtest STX2, which I think you're bound to take part in at some point.
Yeah, I'm going to get shot again. Great fun.
You want to keep getting shot? Yeah.
So this is sort of the everyone expects them to have a marketplace. They've launched it with some gun skins, so great for that. They're pretty cheap. They're for like $3 to $15, I think, is the price. You can't loot them. Obviously, it's an extraction shooter, so when the game's fully out, probably next year, if you have a skin and you go in the game and get shot, someone will nick it. great fun for everyone. Not so good for me. So yeah, we'll see. They're looking to do some sort of collaborations with various NFT collections. So they're going to do some skins, obviously based on those NFT collections, and airdrop them to people's wallets. So to encourage people to play the game. Yeah, it's all sort of good stuff. I guess the thing with Shrapnel is, high quality game, but it's competing with a lot of other obviously Web 2 shooters. We'll see how that plays out. Their model is for UGC, user generated content, which could be skins, but they're much more focused in the long term on people building maps. So that's sort of really where they're going to go, is people building super cool maps that people like to play, and people will pay to play on those maps. So very much like the Counter-Strike sort of model. That's a much harder thing to do, but you have to start somewhere. So yeah.
Good. Right, on that note, I think we are going to finish off, and we will see you all. Good. Anything else you want to mention?
I don't know. I'm still playing Night Crows, level 35, stuck again.
Oh yeah, good.
Getting killed.
Good.
What else?
Keep us all, posted.
It's all gone very dark.
How are you getting on with Blocklords? I've actually struggled a bit with Blocklords.
Blocklords.
I keep on getting.
Yeah, Blocklords announced 85,000 downloads for their PC game from the Epic Game Store, which we were discussing, and we think that's the most blockchain games downloaded from the Epic Game Store. Please let us know if we're wrong. I reckon there's probably about 20,000.
They kicked off the other season now, and the new season.
Yeah, it's new season. New season pass. Not bought it yet, but I will do. Airdrops coming not next week, the week after. I'm not gonna. I've not done enough to get that airdrop, I don't think. But it's sort of good to see them sort of building up, and they sort of. I think there's a lot of sort of showiness in the market at the moment. Lots of airdrops, lots of tokens, and they're giving away their token for free for people who play the game. And I think fundamentally that's what you should be doing. You don't get people, you don't get the sort of the usual shillers shilling your game if you do that, because they can't make any money from it, and they want to
I just find it incredibly difficult. You have to commit so much time lately to sort of even stay on. Sort of,
this is the thing.
And that is the point, yes. But this is sort of increasingly it's for other players, not for me, because I don't have the time to sit there and make sure that my
I think what they're doing, I agree with you. It's really, you have to spend a lot of time on that game, and you can't speed things up. The game has to work in its own time.
Yeah.
I think what they're focused on is being super hardcore and really getting like 10,000 or 5,000 people who are really, really, really committed to that, and that is the game they play. And if you want to get the airdrop, you don't have time to play other games. And I think over time, what they can do, you start with that really heavy duty core, because the game is not great at the moment. People will play it and go, there's loads of features. It's like 10% of the features that will be in the real game. But as they expand it out, you've got your real core people who are now really committed to that game, and you've given them, it's not a lot of money, but you've given them a bit of money, and then you can expand it out and start doing more, because the amount of tokens they're giving away is like nothing. They're not giving away a large percentage, it's a tiny percentage. So the one thing, because they know about games, they've made games, I think they're very much taking a long-term view, whereas I think my question for some of these other games, these token projects and stuff, is they're very much like, let's cash in now, and we don't have to worry about next year. We have to worry about next month. Whereas I think Blocklords are just like, no, we'll do what we need to do now, because we're worried about next year when we launch properly. So,
Right. Ending. Take two then.
Enjoy what they say. Enjoy the burn. Enjoy the burn. Enjoy the grind.
On that note, we are saying goodbye, and we will see you all next week. Bye-bye, John.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.